Hello, my name is Luke. I'm from A&H Insurance. I'm here with Hinman Lau of Mineral, and he is going to walk us through building your compliance employee handbook with Mineral. So take it away, Hinman.
All right, thank you, Luke. Welcome and thank you for joining us today. My name is Himmin, one of your training specialists here at Mineral. I'm going to be leading a webinar today provided by A&H Insurance on mastering the Mineral platform with a focus on helping and supporting you along the way as we build our handbook together. Before we jump into things, I do have a couple housekeeping items. You notice you're all muted right away to limit any disruptions, but we do welcome any and all questions you may have for our time together. So feel free to ask away in the Q&A. It should be located at the bottom of your screen. If you can as well, I do recommend that you log in and follow along. We typically do find that a hands-on experience is one of the best ways to learn, as we are going to be walking you through the process of creating that handbook together. You'll also be receiving a recorded version of this session as well to your inbox afterwards. So if you feel like we are going a little bit fast for you, there's no need to worry. You'll be able to revisit this information anytime at your own pace.
Employee.
That said, I'm really excited to dive into creating that handbook with you. So we're just going to cover our agenda briefly. We're going to begin with a brief introduction to what the Mineral Platform is. Then we're going to cover a quick overview of why having an employee handbook is so essential and valuable. Chances are you may already be aware of why it's important, and that's probably why you're here, but it never hurts to reinforce the value again just before we get into the platform. We're also going to go into the platform, as I mentioned, and then we're going to walk you through how to build and maintain your handbook using Mineral. The main goal of today's session is for you to walk away with a handbook created and the confidence to manage it on your own moving forward. Without further ado, let us get started. So what is Mineral? Mineral is really designed to simplify HR and compliance for you by giving you everything you need in one place to tackle even the toughest workplace challenges. Mineral was created to bring together powerful tools and trusted expertise to really help you bridge that HR compliance gap, especially if you're managing those responsibilities without a dedicated team or formal HR training, which does happen a lot. Our goal is to make it easier for you to stay compliant, confident, and focus on what matters most, which is running your business. Once again, you do have access to Mineral as a result of your friends at A&H Insurance. As I mentioned, before we jump into the platform, we're going to take a brief moment to talk about why having an important handbook is so valuable to you. First, it really does set the foundation for your company culture by introducing employees to your missions, values, and what makes your business unique. It also lays out clear expectations for behavior and performance, helping both employees and leaders stay aligned and consistent. A handbook is a great place to also highlight the benefits your company offers, for instance, like time off, health insurance, or potential retirement plans as well, so employees fully understand what is available to them. Handbook also plays a key role in helping your business stay compliant with state and federal employment laws by clearly communicating required policy. Finally, a handbook can help protect your organization by documenting policies and expectations, which can be critical when responding to legal claims or disputes. With all that in mind, we're going to now transition our screen over to the platform so you can see how easy it is to create a strong and compliant handbook with our tool. As I mentioned, if you do have your login information, please do log in and follow along. Right here, I'm also going to turn off my camera to make sure everything runs smoothly as we go over this walkthrough. Once you're ready to go and logged in, you're going to be brought to your dashboard or home screen that'll look like the one I have on my screen right now. Along the top, you're going to notice a couple of navigation links. And for today, we're going to be focusing on the company policy section. Inside this company policy section, you're going to be taken to your company policy homepage. And within here, you're going to have three areas. The first area is where you can go in and create a handbook itself. That's where we're going to be going into shortly, and we're going to be walking through the process of how to create a handbook together. The second area is just going to be a short clip that walks through how to get your handbook set up. We're also going to, as I mentioned, we're going to be walking through that process together. But if you want to see related clips on how to manage your handbook, here is where you can find a lot of different short clips on that. And at the bottom of this, the last section you're going to see are top questions we have regarding our employee handbooks. So if you want to see what other people have asked or some of the common questions that other people have asked, you can come in here to review these, and the answers will be provided for that as well. With this section covered, we're going to jump into our handbook now to create one together. Once you're in here, there's one thing, if you notice on my screen, there's an important disclaimer here. I'm gonna cover the disclaimer and then we're gonna go into creating that handbook together. But what this disclaimer really does mention is that with your mineral access, you're able to create a single state handbook. If your organization does operate in multiple states and you attempt to create multiple single state handbooks with varying employee count, please note that you are assuming the risk that those handbooks may not be legally compliant across all applicable jurisdictions. If you do operate in multiple states, our HR experts does highly recommend you to use our multi-state handbook. It's part of our premium handbook option, which includes enhanced features such as the support for multi-state handbook, Spanish translation options, and tracking and e-signatures abilities. If you are interested in learning more about that, please do reach out to your A&H insurance representative. But for our access here, you do have access to the single state handbook, and that's what we're going to be building out together. So now that we have that disclaimer covered, let's get started. For our single state handbook, it's very easy to create one. It should take you 5 minutes or less realistically. But the first thing you're gonna do is your handbook name. That's one of the key information we need. There's 6 of those pieces of information, and this is the first one. Most people here will simply just put their business name alone, or sometimes follow it up with handbook or employee handbook. It's completely up to you. So for me, I'm just gonna fill out my company name right now and do handbook. All right, now that you have that filled out, you're going to scroll a little bit down to where it says how to refer to your company and how to refer to employees. In these two drop-down menus, you're going to select the company and then select which one applies to you. So if you refer to your company as an agency, you're going to select agency. Corporation is another example, firm, whichever one applies to you. And then you're going to go to the drop-down menu for employees. You're going to do the exact same here. So if you refer to employees as associates, as staff member, as team member, whichever applies to you, you're going to select the one that fits your needs. Once you have selected the two between these drop-down menu, here's the next area that you're going to need to fill out. This section is the head of your company. So in this section, this is where you're going to enter the name of whoever is your founder, your CEO, or whoever owns that company. Whoever that head of that company is, you're going to enter their name here. So I'm just going to enter a name. All right, now that you have a name entered, you're going to go to the next section, which is the head of company title. So right here, now that we entered their name, you're going to enter their title that you refer to them by. So it's either going to be CEO, founder, or whatever title you refer to them by. You're going to enter that title here. So for me, I put in CEO, and then we're going to go to the next section, which is primary contact. In this section, you're going to enter the person that your employees should refer to if they have any questions. If you're here in this meeting with me, typically you are the person or the primary contact, so you can put in your name in here or whoever's name should be in here as well. If you don't want to put your own name or a name specific name in here, some options you can do are human resources as well or people's operation in this specific section. Oops. All right, so I'm just going to do people's operations for mine. The next section you're going to fill out, how do you refer to your managers or supervisors? In the handbook, there's going to be several instances where it's going to encourage employees to go to your managers or supervisors. So you're just going to have to let the system know what you call those specific leaders. For me, I'm just going to do managers. And then you're going to go to the next section now. This next section is going to be the very last one. And it's going to be at the very bottom. And in the state section, you're going to select the state in which you operate. So for me, I have Texas in my account. So I'm going to select Texas and hit add state. If you're following along creating handbook with me right now, in mine, you can see that the amount of employees was automatically generated. If yours does not automatically generate, you're just going to have to manually input the number of employees. And what that does mean is that your company settings inside the system is not accurate. So once we're done creating this handbook, we highly recommend you to come to the very top of your platform. And at the very far right, you're going to see an avatar icon. If you click this avatar icon and hit company, that's where you're going to be able to adjust your company settings, your industry, your location, your employee count. You do want to make sure that this is accurate when you are using the Mineral platform. With the Mineral platform, all the information we provide you, we try to personalize it and tailor it towards your specific employee size and location. And we base that information inside this company settings. So if you did put in your state and your number of employees did not automatically generate, that usually means your company setting is wrong. So when you have the chance to, please go ahead and go to the top right avatar, go into company and adjust those settings to make sure everything in your account is up to date and accurate. All right. So now that you have your state selected, we're going to come to this right section right here and review this. Um, it should automatically be selected, this box right here. However, if it is not, please make sure that this box is selected. What this does, it will really allow our system to send you an email every time a policy needs to be updated. It will make your life much easier if it's turned on because you won't have to worry about or constantly check on your handbook. Once you've done with all of these 6 sections and you review this box right here is selected, you have created the bare basics of creating a handbook. Your handbook is ready to go. So, but before we do so, I do want to mention there's a couple of fun things that you can also do in here as well. For instance, at the top right here, next to your company name, you can add in your company. Oh, did not do that. You can add in your company logo right here. Inside this section, if you upload your logo, please do make sure that you do upload it in the correct format or else it may not work properly. But once you have, it's completely optional. And if you want to upload your logo, once you have that done, you're going to come here and hit Save Handbook and Exit. I'm not going to do so since I do have a lot of demo handbooks created right here. But when you do hit Save Handbook and Exit, it should take the system less than a minute to generate. And you're going to be brought to this page right here where we call it typically the handbook library. All the handbooks you create will live inside this handbook library. And right now, we are going to click into the handbook that you created yourself, or we just created it together. You're going to click into your handbook. And right away, you're going to notice that there's going to be a table of content for you. Since you're in here as administrators, you're going to be able to see the core areas of your handbook. At the very top are your core policies. These are policies that are on the federal level that apply to everyone. Underneath your core policies or federal policies, you're going to have your state-specific policies right there. Going back to the top, you're also going to notice a small guide and key on the top right corner of your handbook. This guide right here will tell you what type of policy you're looking at. The color codes will identify those policy categories for you. So for instance, if I come in here and open my very first section, the welcome section, right away you're going to notice the same color code right here. For instance, the welcome policy is a best practice, which means we highly recommend you to have this in your handbook, while this at-will employment is a required policy, so you must have it in your handbook. As you move through your handbook sections, you notice that we generate all the areas that should be in your handbook, whether it's a best practice, required, or optional. Each section is color-coded, as I mentioned, so you can see what must be in here. You notice on the right-hand side of each of these policy, there's also going to be a green slider button. When you can see this green color, that means this policy is turned on and will be included in your handbook. You'll automatically notice that everything that is required or best practice should be on right away, whereas everything that's optional is typically turned off. You never want to turn off a required policy, even though you have the option to. But you do have the option to remove or add the other such for the best practice or optional policies. Optional policies and even best practice policies may or may not pertain to your industry, so it's completely up to you if you want to turn them off or if you want to include them. You'll also notice on the right-hand side, you also do have the option to edit these policies. So let me click into this. As I mentioned before, you don't want to edit or remove any required policies, even though you have the ability to do so. They should remain in your handbook exactly the way they are. So once we get into what a best practice or optional policies like I have and hit edit, you do have the ability, we recently updated the ability actually, for you to come in here to change the wording around and also include pictures, charts, tables, and links if you want. The great thing about this is that if you feel like you made too many changes inside the policy language, you can come to the right-hand side and select revert it back to the original policy by clicking on default policy right here. Once you do so, it'll open a box with the original policy language. If you hit click restore to default, and then proceed to restore policy language, it's going to default back to the policy language that we originally created for you. So this will give you some peace of mind knowing you can safely come in here, make edits as you see fit. And if there is something that you don't like, you can go back to the default stage for the one that we have created for you as well. Something I do want to point out in this editing option right here as well. If you look at the text that we have in the policy language, you're going to notice some brackets. You remember those 6 items that we walked through together and filled out when you first created a handbook? Everything that's in bracket, it's going to be automatically substituted out for whatever you entered in when you were creating your handbook. If you come over here where it says preview policy, you're going to notice that the verbiage your employees will read is going to be different from what you see in your policy language. Those bracketed terms will be filled in with what you filled out when you were creating the handbook. As you can see, my company name was Timeless Mocha Co. So when you preview the policy, it's going to be replaced with what was in bracket was going to be replaced with my company name right here. So please don't come in here and think that our system's not working correctly or you need to manually make these changes. There's no need to worry. That's what it's really meant to do for you here. When you download or when you download your handbook as a Word or PDF, those brackets will be filled out with the information as well. So it is working correctly. So there's no need to worry about that. Now we covered how you can preview your handbook, how you can edit your handbook. That does mean that after you create a handbook, there is a little bit of homework for you to complete. And what I really mean by homework is that you want to go in through each one of these areas to determine which policies you want to make edits to, which one you want to turn on, which one you want to turn off, and which one are as good as is. Once you've completed this, you're going to notice that there's also one more color code that I did not mention at the top. It's going to be the custom policy code. I'm going to go back. You won't have this in your handbook, but I'm going to go back to the handbooks that I have created in my system. Inside this one, it's going to look exactly the same as what we went over, and it'll look exactly the same as what you have if you created a handbook with me, except at the very bottom, you're going to notice that I have a custom policy created. When creating a handbook in Mineral, we generally say that it's very simple to create. It shouldn't take you more than 5 minutes to create one. And at the same time, when you create a handbook, it's 80% complete and ready to go. So the reason we say it's 80% complete is because although we do generate those federal and state policies for you, we recognize you may want to include additional policies that are unique to you and your business. So if you notice in my company here, we're all big dog lovers and we have pets in the workplace policies that allow our employees to bring their pets to work. You can create as many custom policies as you like. So if you're looking to create custom policies in your handbook, on the top right, you're going to notice an action button in your handbook. If you click action and click link custom policy, from here you can create your unique policy name. If you click new custom policy, you can create the name for your custom policy, an internal name, the name that will show up in your handbook, and then you can type in your policy language right here. You can have it automatically included in your new handbook or not if you want. And then you're going to hit save policy. Then similar to my handbook, if you do want select to include it in your handbook, it's going to appear at the very bottom of your current handbook right now. Once we have that covered, something that once you have your custom policies covered, once you reviewed all your other policies and you think your handbook is ready to go, you also do have the option to reorder the policies in your handbook. So at the very top left, as you can see, you can click reorder. And this will let you move all your policies around. So if a custom policy should go into a specific section, you will be able to move it into that section as well, or by dragging it, or you can also select it through this option right here on my screen. All right, now let me go back. Underneath the action buttons, we did cover the custom policy. There's also something called the activity stream. You currently won't see much information in your handbook or the ones in my system since these are new handbooks that we created. But what this activity stream really does is going to show you the history of actions that have happened for your handbook. So if there's any changes that have been made, you're going to see who was the person who made the change, when the change was approved, who it was approved by. And then sometimes if it's a new policy that you approved or added, there's going to be a view detail option right here that will let you click into it and see what the previous policy language versus the new policy language was. Furthermore, under the action buttons, you do have the ability to download. Oh, sorry, let me go back. For under the action buttons of your handbook, you also do have the ability to download it as a Word or PDF. And then the one thing I do want to mention with downloading it as a Word or PDF, though, is that I do want to point out that when your handbook is in Mineral, it's a living document, which what it really means is that our legal team will is constantly monitoring thousands of legislations, and as updates become available, we'll add them in for you. You'll get an alert letting you know so that you can remain compliant with your policies. That's really why we call our handbook smart. So once you download your handbook, it's no longer a living document. That's something to keep in mind. So anytime that you come in here, if you make any changes or and there's an update or a policy alert, you will need to download a new version of your handbook. So that's just something to keep in mind. Lastly, under actions, you also do have the ability to click handbook settings, which will really take you back to that page when we're creating our handbook and make any changes you want or need. All right. With that covered, we're going to talk about how to maintain your handbook. We covered how to create, organize, and edit your handbook. So we're going to move on to the next step of maintaining your handbook now in Mineral. As I stated a moment ago, your handbook is a living document. The really great thing about this system is that it self-updates. A lot of people struggle to have a good handbook because it falls out of date. And it's really hard for you to keep or anyone to keep up with all the policy changes. So instead of you spending all that time on monitoring changes or being in risk for missing a change, let our system and handbook do this for you, and you can spend your time elsewhere. As a policy change applies to your handbook, Mineral will give you a notification via email and also on your Mineral to-do list, which is located on your dashboard or homepage of your Mineral platform for when a policy needs to be updated. If you remember when we created that handbook at first, there was a check mark we verified was selected before creating the handbook. That was the verification for the email alerts for this handbook to be turned on so that you know when exactly you need to come in and take a look even when you aren't actively checking the platform. Now, once you're in your handbook library, you're going to notice in one of my handbook, I'm going to have a red flag on the top right corner that is letting me, and if I hover over it, it's letting you know that something's been updated and that there's a policy alert that I need to review and take care of. As a new handbook that if you just created one with me, you won't see this red flag. But let's go into this handbook and you're going to see that there's a orange number. And inside that section, you're going to see it says policy alert. So if you click this policy alert, you'll be able to review this policy alert and you'll notice right away that this is a required update, meaning if I didn't pay attention or have this alert in my handbook, your handbook could be in risk and no longer is compliant. That's why these handbooks are so hard to manage is because of these constantly changing policy alerts. With that covered, and once you're in here, you can see the alert date, when this policy was, what exactly the change was. At the bottom, you'll see typically an updated policy language versus the previous policy language. And then if you click view text difference, you'll see what's been changed. Typically what's in red and crossed out what's been removed. What's in green is what's been changed. For this specific one, even it's not much of a change. However, there are times where it's a completely a policy being removed or a completely new policy being added in. So these policy alerts are very valuable to keep up with, and as times they can be as I mentioned, required policies. Since this is a required policy, in a regular account, you would accept the policy. And but since I am in a demo account, I'm going to leave mine as is. But if you do get these policy alerts and this is a required one, obviously you would hit accept. Whereas if it's optional or best practice, once again, it's completely up to you. Even if you have a handbook outside of Mineral, we typically highly recommend you creating one in our system. One, you can easily create one in 5 minutes or less, and you really just use our handbooks for these alerts at least. Use it as your reference tools to make sure your handbook stays up to date and compliant so you won't be in risk, and you yourself won't have to monitor the changing legislations. Additionally, a commonly asked questions that we do receive is that, can you upload your current handbook into Mineral? The answer to that is no. But if you would like to migrate into our handbook fully, you can create one and then add in custom policies that you have in your current handbook. That's how you would use our handbook if you currently have one. All right, going back to our handbook library, you're going to notice there's an action button right here as well. It's going to be very similar to what we saw earlier, except that in here, you also do have the ability to copy the handbook or delete the handbook if you're looking to do so. If you look for the policy, for my handbook with the policy alert, you won't be able to download it as a Word or PDF until you have reviewed that policy alert. If I go into one without a policy alert, I'll be able to download it right away. So that's something to keep in mind. If you have a policy alert, you won't be able to download it as a Word or PDF. Right here, the table of content really just takes you back to that specific handbook where you can make edits. Handbook settings, similar to what we did earlier. It's going to let you go back to that page to make edits to your handbook when you first created your handbook. And then everything else is the same. Right here inside your handbook library, you also do have the chance to go into your custom policies right here. This will let you review all the custom policies that you have created. For my account, I only have one custom policy created right now, so you only see one, but all your custom policies will be listed here. If you go into details for a specific policy, you're going to see what that policy language is when you create this policy. And if you want to make changes, you can make changes right here as well. Under actions, edit your policy. And then you'll also see which handbooks this current policy is in. So out of my 4 handbooks that I have in my system, it's currently in 2 of my policies, or 2 of my handbooks. And right here, you can make edits to unlink it or make changes inside that specific handbook as well. All right. Now that we covered how to create your handbook, how to edit your handbook, how you can maintain your handbook, that really does cover most of our introduction to the employee handbook. One last thing I do want to cover before we wrap this session up today is this help center or this help option, this navigation bar right here. And also you can go to this section by the bottom right. It's always going to be on the bottom right of your screen, known as the Get Help button. Within these 2 sections, you're going to be able to access our help center. Inside this help center, you're going to get guides, videos, references to get more familiar with the platform. And the reason I wanted to mention this today is because there is a section for company policies and smart handbook as well, where you're going to receive a lot of short clips on how to do specific actions like creating those custom policies, how to edit your handbook, how to reorganize your handbook, a lot of the things we covered. So if you ever need a refresher, it's also here for you to review these short clips if you need additional help. So this does wrap up our in-platform training for the handbook. I do want to first and foremost thank everyone for coming in and joining us. If you do need additional support, feel free to reach out directly to your A&H insurance representative. We do highly encourage you to fully take advantage of our Smart Employee Handbook. And remember that this is only one part of what's available to you. Be sure to explore the rest of the platform to see everything it offers. And then thank you again for joining us today. We hope this walkthrough gave you a clear overview of your mineral benefits from A&H Insurance. Take care, everyone, and have an amazing rest of your day.